Paul, usual place, injuries, illness, how are you today?
No,
this
all
is
good.
Your team, you squad, not you personally.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Not that that particularly matters that much, but the team and the squad are all good. Yeah.
You've got one obvious change to make this weekend with no Wilbur Parga. So does that mean that Eric Osisa will come back in?
He's the most obvious replacement. That's for sure. As always, looking at been watching the Woking games, certainly the last three, as well as a bit of footage from before that, and that comes into it a little bit in terms of how they line up. So I've made the decision. Again, as always, I'm sure I'm not going to reveal 100%, but Erico's certainly in my thoughts.
How's Max Wright? Is he able to resume his place in the squad?
He's going to train today, and we'll see how he goes. He will probably travel with us because to sort of get him back in the group, and I'll see how he comes through. Have a chat with him, and then really make a decision whether he's involved in the match day squad or he can come and do some physical work with us prior to the game.
How's Sean Scannell? Because he was having a scan, I think, the last time we spoke about him.
Yeah, he did. Relatively positive news. I think probably 3 weeks, which with a knee and the sort of swelling that occurred, I think we'd have all happily taken that. Sean seems quite happy in one sense with it, in terms of once it got to that point. So not too bad news there.
Do you need to make any other changes, do you think, this weekend?
As always, you consider it. I sound like a broken record with it, but just because your win doesn't always mean everything's right. We obviously have to check on a couple of lads physically, and we'll look at sort of data, etc. Try and make the best decision we can. It doesn't mean it's always going to be right. Thankfully, a lot of the decisions have worked so far this year, but I think, again, from my own point of view, as long as I feel that I can justify it to myself what I decide, again, staff included in some of that, getting to that final decisions, then I'm okay with it, because you've put the sort of work in, and that there has been a lot of work at the minute with the midweek games. It's a quick turnaround, but I think then you're comfortable. You hope that things go well on the day, which, touch wood, so far it has done more often than not.
How actively are you pursuing another striker at the moment?
Again, a couple of sort of conversations, a couple of watching some footage, etc., but not particularly urgently, Matt, and that's not being sort of complacent, but I kind of, there is a thought in my mind certainly at the minute, is we're in a good place as a squad. There's a good group there, good feeling, and the last thing I want to do is bring someone in, then perhaps they don't go straight in the team, or are they involved? I'm already getting to a point where, again, I'd rather have it, but nearly get a fit squad. If that remains, then I've suddenly the numbers are building up, the lads that I can't even put in the sort of match day 16, and I'm just conscious of that a little bit. If I find something that really thinks improves us, or we get an injury or injuries that changes how I feel about the top end of the pitch, then clearly we'll have to act on it, and that's why there's that sort of, I guess, constant monitoring and looking. Also, although it's some way off at the minute, looking towards January as well, because situations can change within our squad that might be out of our control, and plus we will try and improve in January if possible.
To what extent do you think you'll need to change things, or at least bring anybody in January?
I think that's kind of $50 million question, if you like. Who knows? It's so much can happen game to game. Even out there training this morning, I kind of just said to you, I've got a team in my head now. Something could happen there, or someone might fall ill on the way down overnight, and that changes, and that's just where it is. You've got to always be prepared. You mentioned the saying the other week, fail to prepare, prepare to fail, and I believe in that. It's hard to cover every single scenario, but we try and do that the best we can, so we can be ready to act if needed.
Will you have your loan players available next week in the FA Cup?
That's something we'll confirm on Monday, because again they're kind of, I think there's one in the deals, he's pretty sorted.
Which one?
A couple other I'll have to check on. I think Seb's, I'm pretty sure we got that one done. So we'll check on the others for definite. You know, again, that's a game conscious of. It's in the future. We'll see how we come through Saturday, injury wise, and probably have some conversations at the start of next week to how we go in that game. Okay,
let's look ahead then to this weekend. James McEwen, potentially a 500th town appearance. What tribute would you pay to him?
It's a fantastic achievement. You know, I think to still be at the age he's at as well. You know, he's all right. He's the other side of 30, but realistically could have quite a number of years ahead of him still. So to reach that amount of games is brilliant. Shows, I think, that he's been consistent and often been a regular player for Grimsby Town. You know, it's a nice milestone to reach, especially in his testimonial year as well. So I'm sure he's very proud, but at the same time I know he'll be thinking, well, it counts for nothing if we don't win the game. And we'll be keen to sort of obviously see how many more games he can get to.
When you made your 500th appearance for Rotherham, how did that go?
I didn't get there.
Did you not get there? How close did you get to it?
A sore point, so you've upset me now. I was in a good mood, but no, I got 496, Matt, and probably similar to James, was fit for a lot more. I think if you added me reserve team games on, and you know managers come in or seasons start, and you've kind of been pushed back down the order, and then through a bit of determination, maybe a bit of realisation, actually got back in the team, but never quite made that 500.
Oh dear me, sorry, I've touched the wrong nerve there. Sorry about that, Paul. As for your current team, Phil Parkinson, very complimentary after the game about you as a team. He said that you were possibly champions-elect. Do you need to sort of shut out that sort of talk then at this stage?
I didn't see that. I had a brief chat. He had a brief chat with myself and Chris after the game, and he was complimentary, but I haven't seen sort of any other comments. Look, it's nice. I think it's nice that when another manager's gives an opinion, a respectful, not get caught up in being annoyed by the game or anything. However, I've watched some teams and thought they've been really good, and then they go and lose the week after, things like that. It's too early, isn't it? You know, you're only a champions elect when you've been promoted, realistically. As always, we've made a good start, like we've said, 10 games in. It's been a very good start, but you have to stay in the moment, and we have to try and, while we feel we are in decent form, try and accumulate as many points as possible, because it can change very quickly, as we're talking about with injuries. Form is the same, and like I said, while, you know, I guess to use the phrase, while the sun's sort of shining, you yield what you can, and we've got to try to continue doing that. But at the same time, if we suffer another bump in the road, as we said the other day, can we bounce back quickly? And that's been the pleasing thing after the Bromley game, that we've managed to take 6 points. We'd love another win tomorrow, but we know we're in for a really tough game.
The work rate of your team has impressed many people, and your high press in particular. How pleased have you been with that?
I think the terminology that gets bandied about, I think there is something that we've got kind of a bit of access to on data, that apparently we are right up there, I think maybe top, for winning the ball back, but it's kind of, some of it's by design, and other bits maybe just the players' appetite and what we ask on the training ground. We're always wanting more. You know, and sometimes maybe that's only very slightly unfair on the players, but big believer in keeping driving people on, not to settle for what's currently happening, whether that's individual performances, team performances, results. It's nice. I think sometimes it's good to hear from someone that's not directly involved. You get a little bit immune to it when you're just seeing it day to day. I think that's like just things in life. You almost sort of take things for granted, or like I said, it's just the norm to you. Someone else comes in and sees it a bit differently. So I'm glad that people think that's what we are, because that's something I always want my teams to represent and be associated with. And long may it continue.
Harry Clifton has done well. He scored again the other night, didn't he? How are you seeing his development? How much has he come on in the time that you've been back at the club?
He has, there's no doubt. I think last season was difficult for him. He spoke, I think, openly about that. And I would say that there's a few other players. I think I touched on Luke Waterfall the other day. Players that are now showing a lot better form in what I believe is a better squad. A league below, admittedly, but I think they're still showing that they could make that step up, and I think you'd see different players if in time that could happen.
How are you getting more out of him then?
I think it's just a lot's made of a lot of things in football, but if you've got a group and you enjoy coming into work and you feel that pretty much everyone's on the same page, that's an easier environment to be part of. I think there were a lot of things appeared to be not quite right before I came back to the club. We managed to sort some of those out, and others probably we needed time, and we've had that. Is everything perfect? No, not yet, and it probably never will be, because again, trying to strive to improve.
What isn't so perfect then? Because it seems to supporters at the moment like things are pretty perfect being top of the league.
I think fitting in with the football club and the owners, we've progressed, we've made improvements. There's going to be lulls at various points because you can't improve something every hour, but we want to improve further, and it's trying to find the right times to do that, and the right things to improve. So there's loads of things, Matt, that you can. Now some of that will be dictated to obviously finances, which again we're trying to. Jason and Andrew are putting the money in, trust me, but we're not going to just be silly, and I'm not going to make silly requests for things that will help us for a week and then we never use them again.
Have they said that in January you can have a bit more money to spend?
No, we haven't had that discussion, but the other day I spoke to Jason and he was asking again on, is there anything he can do to help? Is there anything in terms of like the loan lads we currently have, or about are you any closer to looking at getting someone in? So that support is there, and I don't need to be sort of told that every day. I'm kind of very comfortable, feel like although it's still early-ish days realistically, that we've got a good relationship. We've obviously got Debbie at the football club as well, who's more kind of day to day, that we see a couple of times a week at least up here. Relationships are important, and relationships in terms of with the owners, with the staff, with the players. Again, that's maybe something, like I said, that helps build that spirit, and a true feeling that the club's going in the right direction, and we're trying to help the players as much as possible. And you hope then that they see that and give everything that they've got to sort of, I don't know, not pay you back, but because they feel valued, and that's what we're trying to build and create, and I think we've made a very good start with it.
Woking have done okay recently, I think probably better than okay actually, having beaten Notts County and Dagenham, so that maybe underplays what they've done just recently, but what's making them such an effective team right now, do you think?
Well, I'm Chesterfield. At Notts County they changed system, but in general I think they've been pretty settled in their approach and their tactics, I would suggest. They look like they have got a good spirit likewise, even just little things at the end of games when they've won at home. You see that all together, working hard, certainly. A big physical team. It'll be, I think, a very different game than we had against Altrincham, for example. And as always, you win games, especially when you win games against teams that are expected to be up there. That's only going to bring confidence. I mean, whatever happens tomorrow, I think going into sort of 4 games, if you include ours, and you said they took 9 points, they would have been delighted. They've got the opportunity to get 12. And if they do, that's, you know, a fantastic return. I think they sat 8th in the table at the minute, a couple of games in hand. I think they've had changes at their club in terms of more time there for the players and the manager to work with them. So they'll be feeling that they're reaping the rewards of trying to improve.